Welcome back, brothers and sisters, to Learning Mormon Principles. Once again, my name is Rex Beardsley, and I'm your host. We are reading through the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ, and we have been reading so far in the first two segments prior to this, in chapter 15 of 1st Nephi. And I'd like to pick up where we left off in verse 13, and let's jump right into it. And now the thing which our Father meaneth concerning the grafting in of the natural branches through the fullness of the Gentiles is that in the latter days, latter means later days, down the road, in the latter days, when our seed shall have dwindled in unbelief, yea, for the space of many years, and after many generations after the Messiah shall be manifested in the body unto the children of men, then shall the fullness of the gospel of the Messiah come unto the Gentiles, and from the Gentiles unto the remnant of our seed. Now, how interesting is this? How is it that the Gentiles get a hold of the record of their seed before they do? Well, we know at the end of the Book of Mormon, the Nephites were destroyed. Before they were destroyed, the prophet Moroni buried up the records in the hill Cumorah, which is where later on Joseph Smith Jr., the prophet of the Restoration, retrieved them. And since Moroni had hid them up in the hill Cumorah, obviously the Lamanites, who hated the Nephites to the point where they destroyed the Nephites, had no way of destroying the records because they didn't know where they were. So that's how the Gentiles would get their hands on them first. And then after the Gentiles would get their hands on them, and Joseph Smith translates the Book of Mormon by the gift and power of God. What does he do? Well, they established the Lord's Church in April 6th of 1830. And then from that point on, they began to commission missionaries throughout the entire western frontier, as well as into the earlier established eastern states, and heck, even across the ocean. Now, verse 14 says, "And at that day shall the remnant of our seed know that they are of the house of Israel, and that they are the covenant people of the Lord. And then shall they know and come to the knowledge of their forefathers, and also the knowledge of the gospel of their Redeemer, which was ministered unto their fathers by him. Wherefore they shall come to the knowledge of their Redeemer, and at the very points of his doctrine, that they may know how to come unto him and be saved." So, these people come to the understanding of who they are. Since the Lamanites are what most historians know as the American Indians, that's what we refer to them as. The Lamanites are the American Indians. The American Indians find out that they are the Lamanites. So what does that mean? Well, wait, you mean we were Lamanites? That means our father ultimately was Lehi. And wait a minute, if our father ultimately was Lehi, he came from Israel, didn't he? And wait a minute, if he came from Israel, does that mean that we are part of the house of Israel? All these exciting things start to be revealed to the Lamanites. And I can't blame them for being that excited. My goodness, it is an exciting thing just to talk about. Verse 15 says, "And then, at that day, will they not rejoice and give praise unto their everlasting God, their rock, and their salvation? Yea, at that day will they not receive the strength and nourishment from the true vine? Yea, will they not come unto the true fold of God?" These are some pretty good questions. Verse 16, "Behold, I say unto you, yea, they shall be remembered again among the house of Israel. They shall be grafted in, being a natural branch of the olive tree into the true olive tree. And this is what our Father meaneth. And he meaneth that it will not come to pass until after they are scattered by the Gentiles. And he meaneth that it shall come by way of the Gentiles, that the Lord may show his power unto the Gentiles, for the very cause that he shall be rejected of the Jews or of the house of Israel. Let's think about what did the Lord mean by scattering the remnants here? What he's talking about, scattering the Lamanites. Well, what do you mean? How are the Gentiles scattering the Lamanites? Brothers and sisters, since we came to America and we started to expand, if you will, naturally we started making enemies with the natives of the land. And why was that? Because we were either taking land from them or just offending them in some way, shape, or form. But to get to the point, there were several wars that we had with the Indians, both collectively and individually with different tribes. And the ultimate outcome of that was, of course, Indians getting their butts kicked. And because they got their butts kicked, they were scattered. A lot of them were killed. So prophecy stands fulfilled there. Let's read verse 18 now. Wherefore our father hath not spoken of our seed alone, Nephi said to Laman and Lemuel, but also of the house of Israel, pointing to the covenant which should be fulfilled in the latter days, which covenant the Lord made to our father Abraham, saying, in thy seed shall all kindreds of the earth be blessed. And what was he talking about with Abraham and all the seed being blessed? Well, Abraham had the promise in the institution, of any person who receives the gospel, the priesthood comes in and through him, and the blessings that were given to Abraham were then given to those who accepted the gospel. Now, verse 19 says this, and it came to pass that I, Nephi, spake much unto them concerning these things. Yea, I spake unto them concerning the restoration of the Jews in the latter days. Oh, restoration of the Jews? What do you mean? Well, before the Savior left, we know several times actually where Jerusalem was destroyed, okay? And in doing so several times, it ultimately ended up to where the Israelites had no official nation. Now, what was the very reason why Lehi, Nephi, and Laman and Lemuel and all the others left Jerusalem? Well, the Lord prophesied that the Lord told Lehi to prophesy to people that unless they changed their ways, he was going to destroy Israel. And nobody believed him. Nobody. Which is typical. So the Lord does what? He commands Lehi to take his wife and his sons and eventually come back for Zoram and Ishmael, his wife, and his daughters, and to leave. And sometime, we don't have official dates, historians tell us though, that sometime between the years of 600 and maybe 587, so you got about a 13-year room of play, sometime in that area, Jerusalem was destroyed. So very, very shortly after Lehi and all of them left, Jerusalem was destroyed. And then, of course, after the Lord came and then he left, Jerusalem was destroyed. Many bricks were thrown down. Babylonians came in, take the Jews into bondage. And then, of course, we know what happens through World War I, World War II. All these things, bad things happen. They're just getting thrown left and right. And finally, about 70 years ago, Israel became a nation again. Incredible? No. Prophecy fulfilled? Yes. By far. Now, we'll come back and start at verse 20.